I want to be talking today about that heading of leading by serving. When we talk about leadership, we often think about somebody who's at the top of the pecking order, or management, admin. You're not at the bottom. You've got some experience under your belt. You've got knowledge. You're training, etc., etc. And some of us have been in places where that's sort of come naturally for us or others we're working with, and it's good and lovely. And no doubt we've all come across people who are in positions of leadership and you think, how did you make it there? And or you are there because you've actually walked over everybody on the way. There's much PD out there where they talk about icebergs and the tip of the iceberg, and it doesn't matter whether you're in teaching or nursing or medical or whatever you're doing, they always bring in this iceberg where at the top, that's what you think are the main issues, but there's always this stuff underneath. So no doubt we've come across leaders who are up there and they're walking around, strutting their stuff, looking like that they've got everything under control, and they're getting the accolades and the praise, but the busy bee workers who have been trodden on and working overtime are the ones that are scurrying around to make that person look good or the business look good or whatever. So, little side issue, I'm not talking about that. I want to be talking about how we are all leaders in the ponds we fish in, and encourage you in doing so. We're actually talking about leading others to Christ. And incorporate in that, what does our heart look like? I want to start with two passages from within John 13. This is the Jesus when he is with his disciples at the Passover festival. A week later, he's going to give. We know the story. We know the end. Spoiler alert: he dies a week later, but 3 days later he rises. So this isn't a sad ending story. I don't like sad ending stories. So back to Jesus. He got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. A couple of verses later, 10 verses later. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. So, Jesus is actually doing something that the person or the people at the bottom of the pecking order, you can get no lower than the slaves whose job was to wash the feet of the people coming in to the household. These slaves are washing away the dirt, the muck, the smell. It's not just walking down the road and I've got smelly feet wearing my thongs. It's dust, it's dirt, and you had animals around, so you're not walking down this clean asphalted path while the animals are over there. You're walking through only the good Lord knows what. And then you turn up to a house and you've got these slaves that are having to get down on their hands and knees and clean those feet. And here we have Jesus doing that. In the verses between 4 and 14, we actually have Peter saying, no, don't wash my feet, I should be washing yours. And Jesus says, no, I've got to be doing this. And then Peter says, well, you've actually got to wash all of me. So there's a bit of an interaction there where Peter is trying his best. He's possibly embarrassed. Like, don't touch my feet. Like, I know where I've been. You don't want to be there. But Jesus is saying, no, I'm going to do this. And no doubt the disciples were experiencing this and thinking, wow, this is a bit weird, but hey, it's nice, thank you very much. But then Jesus actually says, now that I have washed yours, you also should wash one another's. So I bet they're thinking, dang, don't want to do that. But Jesus has actually given us an example to follow. One of the many things we need to be remembering about Jesus is he's actually gone before us and he's done it all. It's not like whatever we're doing or we're experiencing is brand new. And quite often you might hear about other people's stories about, well, that's fine for you because your situation is like that, but it's not like mine, and therefore I don't know what to do, or I'm going to go down this path. With Jesus, we can just go straight to him and say, hey, Jesus, what did you do? What did you do in this situation? Because he's done it. That's what we need to be doing. Also in John 14, Jesus is talking to his disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no man than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. So here he's now bringing in this sense of love and joy. And again, he's led the way. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you, encouraging you to now go out, us, me, the disciples, to go and do the same. He talks so much about love, and at times we can think, yeah, I've just got to love on people and that's fine. This love has got to come with serving. He was encouraging his disciples to go and do what he has done, to go out and love on others, and in doing so, you are serving others. Paul reiterates this message in Corinthians. He is telling the Corinthians, do not deceive yourselves. If any of you think you are wise by the standards of this age, you should become fools so that you may become wise. The world of Christianity, or the world that Jesus calls us to and God wants us to be operating in, is actually a world that is upside down. The Japanese have this word, it's hantai, which actually means opposite. And it's a word that I really like. I happen to be a Japanese teacher in a past life, so that's why I'm throwing in a bit of Japanese. But this word, when you get the two characters, the first character means half, and the second word means change. And it literally means 180-degree turnaround. And here, Paul is talking to the Corinthians, and the Corinthian church there, they've been ministered to and brought to Christ through Paul, but they're also in a society where there's these expectations within society of where are you, status, where are you in the pecking order, how skilled are you with your conversation, your rhetoric, your debate, your skills in knowing the law of Moses, etc., within the temple. And Paul is having to talk to the Corinthians and remind them that despite this is what society is saying and expecting and calling you to do, and to boast about your skills, boast about your household, boast about where you are, Paul is telling the Corinthians, in Christ, that is not what you're meant to be doing at all. It is directly opposite to what society is calling you to do and expectations. And he himself talks about how he was highly educated and where he could have been, where he has come from, but he is prepared to appear foolish in the eyes of everybody for the sake of Christ. Because what Christ is calling us to do is directly opposite, 180-degree turnaround from what society is calling us to do. A message that is still relevant to us today. Do we ladder climb within our jobs? Do we put ourselves forward and say, pick me, whether it's at work, whether it's in sporting, whether it's in clubs, whether it's in committees and societies or anything like that? Do we push ourselves forward? Are we boasting about our skills? Are we looking to get the bigger house, the second house, the better car, the latest phone, the nicer clothes, the brand names? There's nothing wrong with all of that in itself. But if that's what we're chasing, if that's what we're looking to, if they are the boundaries we are working within, how does God fit into that? And God is not someone that should be fitted into a box. God, I will love you more if I can have Gucci shoes. Or I'm going to serve you, Lord, if I can go for a round-the-world trip. And then when I come back, I'll, minister to the poor, sort of thing. It's like, that's not what God's about. What is our priority? Paul was prepared to be a fool. And Paul himself is a beautiful example of going out there, slaughtering the Christians, holding all these jackets for people to stone Stephen. And yet when he gets zapped, blinded, and we know the rest of the story there, that is a full-on Huntai experience. 180-degree turnaround. He was as full-on as he was for getting the Christians. He just then was full-on for spreading the gospel. And he was prepared to be stoned and starved and shipwrecked and imprisoned. So if that's what Christ is calling us to do, and Paul is having to tell the Corinthians, along with the Galatians and the Ephesians and everybody else, then I reckon that's what God's calling us to do too. Just some examples here of looking at Jesus and the way he ministered to people. He obviously spoke to large numbers. We know the stories of feeding the 5,000 or him standing in a boat and preaching to everyone on the beachfront. But he also went for the individuals. He went for that blind man. He went and spoke to him. He went and rubbed his hands in the dirt and wiped it all over the bloke's eyes, etc. He didn't just ignore him and say, oh, can someone else do that? I'm just going to, I'm more important, I'll go over here. I've got to go and talk in the temple, so can someone else attend to that? He actually went to that blind man and attended to him. The Samaritan woman, his disciples were sent off to go and get food or something, and he waited for that Samaritan woman. Now, the blind man, he would have had so many people just ignoring him. And he's there again. Whatever family history, he's clearly done something wrong. He's deserving that. I'm not going to attend to him. Jesus does. The Samaritan woman, she's going out in the middle of the hottest part of the day to go and get her water because she doesn't want to be there with anybody else. She has been shunned. She has been ignored. She's feeling probably undervalued, valueless, like what's the point? Jesus speaks to her. She herself is very hesitant. Why are you talking to a woman? Why are you talking to a Samaritan woman? What do you want? Who are you? Like really, you're quite, this is a weird situation. But he spoke to her. And I reckon that's probably the first person who spoke nicely to her and made her feel valued and loved for a very, very long time. He spoke to that woman. He's walking along with his mates and he sees this guy up a tree. He doesn't just say, hey, and keep walking. He actually stops and says, Zacchaeus, come down. At this point, he's got lots and lots of people around, but he still stops to pick out Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus, come down. I'm going to have dinner at your place tonight. Now, I would imagine that everybody there would know who Zacchaeus was. You don't talk to him. If you look at him sideways, he's going to want more money. I already have nothing. I'm going to avoid him. I don't like him. He's mean, nasty, awful, all those sorts of things. So for Jesus to speak to him would have been a shock to everybody. But then for Jesus to turn around and say, hey, I'm coming to your place for dinner tonight, would have just made everybody probably just stand back even more. Like, what is this man thinking? Do you know who Zacchaeus is? Jesus, really, come to your senses. Like, why don't you go to these people? Their house is nice, these people are nice, they're friendly. Why don't you go there? No, he's going to Zacchaeus' house. Jesus spoke to the one person. And from all three of these people, they were blessed. They had that one-on-one time with Jesus where Jesus just had eyes for them, time for them. And the repercussions on them for their future would have been amazing. Like when someone just gives you their one-on-one attention, they're not looking over your shoulder at who's coming behind, they're not looking at their phone, they're not looking at their watch, they're not toe tapping, really, I've got to go. They're actually just with you. It's as if you and that person are the only people in the whole world and you've both got lots and lots of time. So let's just hang and have a conversation without interruption. I reckon that's what it would have been like for these three people with Jesus. And to then be filled with the joy and the love and the hope and the revelation of who he was. We know the Samaritan woman then rushed down into the town, and she would have been going up that hill with her jugs for the water, probably just feeling so dejected, shoulders down, head down, not looking at anyone in case there was anybody out there. But then after time with Jesus, she's then running into the city, yelling loudly, shouting joyfully, telling everybody what she's just experienced. The effect of one person, Jesus talking to one person, and the rippling effect. It's like throwing a rock into your pond and the ripples go out. The effects are amazing. There are many other people that are ministered to individually. The lady with the blood issue that we heard from last week from Sharon. The paralysed man being lifted in by his friends. Jesus spoke to him, pick up your mat. That one-on-one is just revelatory for those people. So I want to be encouraging us all to be leading others to Christ through service. What can we do for others around us? And I don't mean just here in the church. In here is fantastic. In fact, this is a fantastic opportunity in a location to be safe and to try something. You cross the room and you speak to someone on the other side, or you offer to get them a coffee or a food, or a plate of something, or a meal. But how much more can we show Christ to the world by doing that to our neighbours, to the people we work with, to the people we volunteer with, to the people we play sport with, to our the people at the shops or wherever, the people you deal with. Every one of those people is an opportunity for us to be showing the hands and the feet of Christ to them. And we don't need to be bowling up saying, hey, I'm a Christian, I want to make you lunch. If you've got the capacity to do that, go for it. But some of us don't. And I don't think that that's wrong. Some people, the minute you say, hey, I'm a Christian, the shutters go down and people are not going to listen to you. They're not going to pay attention to you. They're not going to want you to buy coffee for them because they think, oh, if I say yes to your coffee, you're going to just Bible bash me and I don't want that. So we've all got different skills and abilities. We need relationship. But if we can't build relationship with people, then how do we have that opportunity to even share the gospel? So leading others to Christ through service. loving and serving others who are not loved by others. Those on the periphery, those on the edge, those who just need someone to come and talk to them, spend time with them one-on-one. That smile you might give to someone as you're passing somebody down the street, or the shop assistant, or wishing them a good day back and actually following that up with a smile. It speaks volumes. And a reminder that as Christians, we're foolish. Worldly wisdom is foolish compared to Christ's wisdom. Attaining goods and promising God all sorts of things if I can have that relationship or that job or that position or that role or be in this place or have that car. That's not the way God works. Some examples. We've talked before about Brother Lawrence, who ended up in like the kitchen area, and he would peel potatoes. He would prepare the food. He wasn't at the lectern. He wasn't on the stage or preaching and teaching to lots and lots of people at any one time. He was in the kitchen peeling the potatoes and getting the meals going. But his impact was amazing. There's Henry Newen, who ended up working with severely disabled people. Many people would not want that, and I do believe it requires skill, but the severely disabled people, and he had one particular bloke who he was with, who I believe was in a wheelchair and severely impaired in a multitude of ways, but Henry just loved on that guy. And he could see Christ through him and in him, and he was humbled by that. I was at a funeral a couple of weeks ago of the father of a friend of mine, and one of the many reasons I went was because that friend was someone I met through high school, and with a couple of others, she invited us to the local youth group. And through that, I'd had seeds planted prior to that, but through that opportunity of the youth and the youth group camps and other things, I came to Christ. And her family lived not far from the church, so quite often a group of us would end up round at their place just having teenage chats and talks, and her parents were very open and hospitable to us coming round. And they were sweet and generous. They never, sat down and said, right, we're going to preach the gospel every time you come round and let's all sit down and hold hands and sing Kumbaya. But their openness, their welcoming in of us all. And I had continued connection with them. I ended up, as I was going through uni, doing a bit of cleaning, house cleaning, and I did cleaning there. And they were so hospitable. For a very brief period of time there, I never had the opportunity of learning musical instruments as I was growing up. But this particular family had a piano. My church had a piano, and I decided I was going to learn how to play the piano. But we didn't have a piano at home, which did make it tricky. But I had freedom to go into our church, which back in the day, the door was always open. So I could go in there and just practice. But also this particular family said, as I was there for cleaning, feel free to stay for as long as I wanted, use their piano and practice away. On one time my family ended up with a Labrador puppy which couldn't be left alone. So she would come with me for cleaning, and this family were very hospitable. Yep, she could come with me on my cleaning and I would have to clean up after her too, which just added to my job. But they were so welcoming, so lovely. And as I had seen them through the years at different points, I didn't see a lot of them, but when we did, it was like, how are you going? And how is Gary? And how's your family? And they gave me time, and I just felt so special and blessed by them. So he passed away, funeral, and it was just interesting that a few people I knew there from different past chapters of my life, but also people who I had no idea would actually know this bloke. But hearing about his impact, he was not within the church as a worker, he was within the medical fraternity, but he and his family went off and did missionary work in Papua New Guinea. And just hearing about the impact, the legacy he has left. The first legacy I would encourage anyone to have is with your family relations. Be it your partner, be it your children. That should be the priority. Because for them, you are irreplaceable. Just a little side note there. But his impact was actually worldwide, as they had impact on different people that they worked with, that they ministered to, that he helped heal. It's sort of missionary stories of travelling rapid waters in fast little kayaks to try and get to the other side to help someone who's about to give birth to a baby. And it's an amazing sort of Dr. Livingstone-like stories. But the impact that was shared by his family about they will go places and they just have to, it comes up who they are with regard to this particular person, and people would be saying, wow, he spoke to me. He visited me when I was in Nepal. He came and saw us and my family when we were out somewhere else. And all this guy did was go about his business of the skills and the calling that God had on him. He would be ministering to one-on-one, to one family, one person, speaking to one person. And at times he did have the opportunity of teaching, lecturing, but much of his impact was by those one-on-ones, because he spoke to one person and that person would then go and speak back to their family or to the chief of their village, etc. So serving as leading, as we're leading others to Christ. To do this properly, to do this successfully, and I mean successfully with God, what's the state of our heart? What is the state of our heart as we're serving? Are we doing this for the purpose of getting noticed? Are we doing this to say, oh, everyone, do you know what I'm doing? I think it's incredibly important that integrity and character, strength of character, is what are we like when we think no one's watching? So it's one thing for all these accolades to come and these letters after your name or these certificates or these awards, but if your family don't get to see much of you, or your relationships of your friends, etc., they don't see much of you or they see a different side, it doesn't come together. So what are we like when we think no one's watching? To finish off, I just want to read some excerpts from my Bible reading this morning. So full credit to Nikki Gumbel, who's doing this 365-day going through the Bible. David was extraordinarily gifted. He was handsome, in good health, he was talented musically, he was a gifted speaker. He had athletic ability, he was a leader, he was successful, he was famous. He seemed to have it all. As did Saul at the beginning too. I'd heard about him earlier on in the week. Yet it was for none of these reasons that God used him. The Lord spoke through Samuel to say, human beings look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. So David was a man after God's heart. He made mistakes. We all do. So I take comfort in Moses and Abraham and David and the well-knowns as well as the non-well-knowns, making mistakes. But David had a heart for God and kept coming back to him. Nikki Gumbel quotes Joyce Meyer. So I just say this because I don't want you to ever think that I'm coming up with these beautiful words. I'm not that gifted at all. God is not looking for someone with ability, but someone with availability. Keep your heart pure by refusing to allow hatred, offence, bitterness, resentment, or unforgiveness to stop you.